Suzanne Eaton was a 59-year-old American molecular biologist working in Dresden, Germany. Her career took her across the globe, attending and leading conferences on cutting-edge research. In July 2019, one such event brought her to the picturesque Greek island of Crete. She couldn't have known this trip would be her last, or that the man responsible for her death would eventually be caught because of his activity on YouTube. On July 2nd, after participating in a conference and playing a public piano in the hotel lobby, Suzanne said goodbye to her colleagues and returned to her hotel. That afternoon was the last time anyone saw her alive. When she didn't show up for the second conference later that day at 6 p.m., her absence raised immediate concerns. It was completely out of character for Suzanne to miss scheduled events without warning. By the next day, her colleagues grew increasingly worried. Still having heard nothing from her, they contacted the local police on July 3rd. Officers arrived at her hotel room, but no one answered the door. Using a spare key, they entered and found the room undisturbed. Nothing seemed out of place. Her personal belongings were all still there, except for her running shoes and a set of workout clothes. To those who knew Suzanne, this painted a clear picture. In addition to being a respected scientist and talented pianist, Suzanne was also an athlete. A double black belt in Taekwondo, she made it a point to go for daily runs, even in unfamiliar places. Given the intense heat that afternoon, investigators initially suspected she may have collapsed or suffered heat stroke during a jog. Search and rescue teams were dispatched to nearby trails. Her family flew to Crete and offered a 50,000 euros reward for any information. Yet days passed without any sign of her. Then, on July 8th, 5 days after she vanished, two young men exploring a long-abandoned Nazi bunker made a horrifying discovery. About 200 meters inside, beneath a burlap sack, were the bloody remains of Suzanne Eaton. An autopsy later revealed she had suffered multiple fractures, broken ribs, and a missing ear. Her injuries made it clear this was no accident. A brutal crime had been committed. The first major break in the case came when investigators found tire tracks leading directly to the bunker entrance. The car was traced back to 27-year-old Giannis Periskakis, a local sheep farmer. When questioned, Giannis insisted he had simply been driving in the area and had no knowledge of the bunker, even claiming he didn't know it existed. That lie would ultimately unravel everything. Giannis had long harbored dreams of YouTube stardom. Since 2012, he'd run a YouTube channel under his own name. But when authorities visited his page after Suzanne's body was found, they discovered only 3 remaining videos, demos of a Chinese martial art called Qigong. Just days earlier, Giannis had scrubbed the rest of his uploads. That caught investigators' attention. Recovered footage from deleted videos revealed that Giannis had repeatedly explored abandoned Nazi bunkers, including the very one where Suzanne's body was found. Not only had he lied about not knowing the bunker, but further investigation revealed the land it sat on belonged to his own family. Forensics then uncovered traces of Suzanne's blood in the trunk of his car. Confronted with the mounting evidence, Giannis confessed. He claimed he saw Suzanne running alone, hit her with his car twice, and brought her alive to the bunker where he ended her life. Later, he changed his story, claiming he was possessed by a demon. The jury didn't buy it. In 2020, Giannis Periskakis was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But the story doesn't end there. Authorities began to suspect Giannis might not be a one-time offender. Before Suzanne's murder, he had already been investigated for arson and animal cruelty, both considered red flags for potential serial offenders. After his arrest, several women came forward, alleging that he had attempted to run them over in the past. The most disturbing evidence came from another one of Giannis's deleted YouTube videos. In it, he explores the same bunker well before Suzanne's murder and remarks on bones scattered across the floor. Bones that looked human. His friend, who was filming, makes a chilling comment in Greek. "Is this where you left that old guy?" A disturbing suggestion that Suzanne may not have been his first victim. Simply Manic 6075 was a YouTube channel run by 24-year-old Samantha Wolford, a stay-at-home mom living in Mount Pleasant, Texas, with her husband Ernie and their 5 children. Samantha's videos were an eclectic mix. day-in-the-life vlogs, personal reflections, and her dream of becoming an actress. She met Ernie at a tattoo shop in 2008, and the two quickly fell in love. Samantha had just become a single mother to twins and saw Ernie as a savior. Together, they had 3 more children, including another set of twins. Ernie worked 2 jobs to support the family, and from the outside, they seemed like a loving couple. But behind the scenes, things were deteriorating. Samantha began to fixate on YouTube fame. In her videos, she occasionally hinted at abuse, accusing Ernie of mistreatment. Then, in March 2014, she abruptly disappeared from the platform. It wasn't until February 20th, 2015 that the truth came to light. That night, police received a 911 call from Samantha's aunt, who had just discovered her niece tied up and gagged in the bedroom. Samantha claimed that 3 masked men had broken in, tied her up, and kidnapped Ernie. Yet something about the story felt off. Nothing was stolen. The kids were all unharmed, and Samantha managed to call for help despite supposedly being restrained. When questioned by police, Samantha's story shifted. She now said a man named John Rebel might be responsible, someone who overheard her talking about Ernie's alleged abuse. The real man behind John Rebel was Jonathan Sanford. Alongside 2 accomplices, Jose Pon and Octavius Rhines, he admitted to kidnapping Ernie. They had driven him into the woods and executed him with a single gunshot. Investigators uncovered even more damning evidence. Messages from Samantha instructing Octavius to kill the phone and ditch it while police were actively searching for Ernie. It was soon clear that Samantha had orchestrated the entire thing. Initially, the plan was to plant drugs on Ernie and get him arrested. But Samantha later decided that murder would be simpler and possibly more attention-grabbing for her YouTube ambitions. She was convicted and sentenced to 149 years in prison. Ernie's death left 5 children without their parents. Diana Lovejoy was a fitness blogger and YouTuber from Carlsbad, California. While she worked as a technical writer, her true passion was endurance sports. She ran a YouTube channel and fitness blog, Lovejoy Fitness, where she documented everything from triathlon training to cooking videos. Her life took a turn after finally having a child with her husband, Greg Mulvihill, following 8 miscarriages. But their happiness was short-lived. Greg lost his job, Diana became the sole provider, and their marriage quickly spiraled into bitter conflict. She accused Greg of abuse and fought to take full custody of their son. Investigators found no proof of her claims, and in late 2015 she was ordered to pay Greg $120,000 in a divorce settlement, with joint custody granted. But before the divorce was finalized, Greg got a strange phone call. The man on the line, claiming to be a private investigator hired by Diana, said he had evidence proving Greg's innocence and told him to retrieve the documents from a hiking trail. Greg went, bringing a friend. But when they reached the trail, a sniper opened fire. Greg was shot in the chest, narrowly missing his heart. He survived, and police quickly found a set of towels the shooter had used. DNA on the towels pointed to Weldon McDavid, Diana's firearms instructor. Searches uncovered the same towels at Diana's home, CCTV footage of her buying the burner phone used in these tup, and even the rifle hidden in Weldon's garage. The setup was clear. Diana had orchestrated a murder attempt to avoid custody loss and the settlement. She and Weldon were convicted in 2017. Diana received 26 years to life. Weldon, the shooter, was sentenced to 50 years. Greg recovered and now lives with his son. At first glance, the YouTube channel Gunnar Runar 87 looks innocent. It features a single video, a young man confessing his love for a girl named Hildur. But behind the video lay one of Iceland's darkest crimes. Gunnar Runar had a traumatic childhood. His father died by suicide in front of him when he was just 9. Isolated and emotionally scarred, Gunnar clung to his classmate Hildur for comfort, growing infatuated with her over the years. When she got engaged in 2009, Gunnar uploaded the confession video, unable to share his feelings in person. But when he was asked to help get Hildur home from a party a year later, he made a fateful decision. Instead of taking her to her husband Hannes, Gunnar brought her to his own home. She awoke the next day and was furious. But when she arrived back home, she found her husband dead at the top of the stairs, stabbed over 20 times. Police initially suspected